Power up your chainsaws because we're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hello and welcome back to Popcorn Chat. In this video we're talking about the 2020 release Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which recently came out on Netflix. I love the original of the film. I think it's this really classic, iconic kind of horror film that lends to a lot of tropes that we know and love now. So I was curious to check out this 2022 sequel, and I was curious to see what they were going to do with Leatherface as a character and bring in sort of a new modern spin on it. I would also like to make people aware that I watched this film at 8:30 AM on a Saturday whilst having my breakfast, so if you've seen it, you know, you can probably see why that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, As one of my New Year resolutions, I've made it my goal not to watch film trailers, especially if they come out online. I'm avoiding them, and I managed to avoid anything to do with this film. I just knew I was excited for it and I was going to check it out either way. So for this to be one of the films that I've not seen the trailer of and going blind to this, I really enjoyed it, and I think that was a really refreshing experience, and I encourage people to do the same. Like I said, I've only seen the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. I know they've done a few along the years, but this one kind of jumps, you know, decades later from the first film and mainly references that one. It worked perfectly from my understanding of that first film. So what's the film all about? We follow a group of young people heading to the town of Harlow, where they intend to help convert and gentrify, but ultimately they are stopped when they reawaken the character of Leatherface. I generally had a pretty good time with this film. I think the kills were excellent, you know, they had a real sort of gore factor. I think the kills were great. They were sort of really sort of shocking and sort of, you know, eye-opening to see so early in the morning. But I thought they did really well in terms of practical and CGI. They blended that really well. On top of that, I thought the score was excellent. You know, it was kind of minimal, but it built up and matched, like, every time, you know, Leatherface hit someone, it sort of matched perfectly and really added to the impact in that moment. And then there was this kind of sort of moment later on in the film where you have this sort of underlying score. Very much reminded me of Jaws. I got that kind of vibe in terms of the composition of the track. So I thought the score was pretty good, actually. I would love to check that one out again after watching the film. The group of young people in this film are a little bit different to the stereotypes, you know, of horrors gone by, you know, kind of just going out to party or whatever. They kind of surpass that trope. They are young people who want to make a change, and there's definitely some kind of politics running throughout the film and sort of social commentary on sort of guns in America and sort of that old-fashioned attitude. So I think this group has something to stand for, which sort of, you know, goes against those sort of tropes that we've seen in horror films and makes them a little bit more interesting, I guess. I had a good time with this film, but I think it lost its way in that sort of third act. I think a lot of the kills that I was enjoying in the first half, if I can say I enjoyed the kills, I think it kind of became a little bit silly. There was no sort of grounded in reality whatsoever in those kills. But if you can detach yourself from reality and suspend your disbelief, you know, it's a really sort of good sort of kills, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of what the characters were doing. There was just certain moments where, like, that character wouldn't survive and get up and then attack Leatherface. That wouldn't happen. And it just happened again and again, and that's like, I can't really suspend my disbelief for this much. So it was just a little bit too silly in that last act for me, in terms of what the characters did and the kills that Leatherface himself did. It kind of drew me out of the film a little bit. I mentioned how these characters had a sort of belief, they had a sort of intention for being in this town, but generally I didn't really care for these characters as individuals, especially the male character. Didn't really care for him at all. And then, yeah, I wasn't invested in the sister's dynamic and the other character. I think they gave good performances in sections. I just didn't really feel for these characters. I don't think there was enough there in terms of the writing for me to feel for them. I generally had a good time with this film. It wasn't perfect by any means, you know, in kind of this world that we're living in of horror, you know, rebrands and sequels and, how did Scream put it? Requels. In this world of requels, you know, we've had Halloween, Scream, Halloween Kills. Loads of things have come back, basically, in terms of reviving characters that we know and homaging those first films. But yeah, it's fallen into that category of requels. And I think, yeah, Scream got it bang on with what they were saying in that film. I thought this film was okay. It was alright. I think there was good moments, but it lost its way, and I didn't care for the characters. So for that reason, I'm going to give the film 2 out of 5 stars. If you suspend your disbelief this film, I'm sure you'll have a great time. You know, there's some great kills in there, great violence, and some nice little homages to the source material. However, it just wasn't there fully for me. But I'm sure many people will have fun with this film, be it that they're Texas Chainsaw fans or just entering this sort of new horror era. I'm sure people can take something away from this film. If you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to check those out. If you've not seen it yet, please let me know your thoughts when you have seen it, and I'll see you very, very soon for another popcorn chat.